Many people put their health at risk every day by performing the same seemingly harmless morning actions. Dizziness, sudden blood pressure spikes, and general weakness in the morning can be related to these unobvious but dangerous habits that have been formed over the years. It is important to understand how such actions can gradually undermine health, and more importantly, how adjustments can be made without drastic lifestyle changes. Often, we do not think that the morning can become a real test for the body, especially with age, when the body becomes more susceptible to any negative influences. Next, you will learn how to start your day correctly in order to feel more vigorous, healthier, and more energetic. Let's look at 5 main mistakes that many people make every morning. The first of these is getting out of bed abruptly. This habit, which seems harmless, can be dangerous for the brain. Many people get out of bed instantly, as if at the flip of a switch, and immediately go about their business, forgetting that the body has not yet fully woken up. Despite the apparent vigor, a series of changes occur inside the body. The heart does not have time to adapt to the vertical position of the body and redistribute blood flow. This is especially true for people over 60-70 years of age, whose cardiovascular system no longer works as quickly as it did in their youth. In the horizontal position, blood is distributed throughout the body in a special way. What happens next? When a person suddenly gets out of bed, their brain may experience a short-term lack of oxygen, which is called orthostatic hypotension. This condition sometimes manifests as sudden weakness, darkening of the eyes, and in particularly serious cases, even fainting. To avoid such an unpleasant jolt, it is recommended to give yourself a little morning respite. Immediately after waking up, you should not rush to get up. Instead, you can calmly count to 30, allowing the body to gradually recover. Then, you should gently move your feet and hands, preparing the body for the upcoming activity. It is important to accustom it to the idea of an imminent rise. After that, you can get up and sit on the edge of the bed, spending a few more seconds in this position. Light rotations of the shoulders and head will help you finally wake up. This simple morning ritual takes very little time, less than a minute, but can significantly reduce the risk of falls and other unpleasant consequences. Older people who have developed such a useful habit are much less likely to experience blood pressure spikes in the first hours after waking up. Another common mistake is a forgotten morning sip of water because a lack of fluid can negatively affect the work of the heart. Waking up, a person may not feel thirsty, and this is a cunning trap. With age, the thirst center in the brain becomes less active, so the feeling of dry mouth may be absent. As a result, an erroneous decision arises. I don't want to drink, why force the body? However, overnight the body loses fluid through sweating, breathing, and the work of internal organs. If this loss of water is not replenished in the morning, the blood may become thicker, which will create an additional burden on the heart, which will have to work harder to pump it. Researchers emphasize that systematic water consumption in the morning can be an effective way to prevent hypertension in older people. It is recommended to introduce a simple but effective rule into your daily routine. Drink a glass of water immediately after waking up. In order not to forget about this important ritual, you can put a glass of water on the bedside table so that it is the first thing you see, ahead of the usual morning drinks, such as coffee or tea. This easy-to-follow habit can provide significant support to the cardiovascular system and activate the work of the whole body. Experts also warn against drinking coffee or tea on an empty stomach, especially for people over 60-70 years of age, as this can be a serious test for the stomach and nervous system. Morning coffee or tea is perceived by many as a symbol of comfort and pleasant awakening. However, if the first sip is taken on an empty stomach, it can provoke excessive acid production in the stomach, which has no protection in the form of food. As a result, heartburn, irritation of the gastric mucosa, and in the future, exacerbation of chronic diseases of the gastrointestinal tract may occur. In addition, coffee stimulates the production of cortisol, a stress hormone. In moderate amounts, this is not a problem, but in older people, a sharp increase in cortisol levels can lead to rapid heartbeat, fluctuations in blood pressure, and increased anxiety. At the same time, it is not necessary to give up your morning cup of coffee altogether. It is enough to have a snack before drinking. Eat a fruit, a piece of bread, or a small handful of nuts. This will serve as a kind of protection for the stomach walls and soften the effect of coffee on the nervous system. Thus, drinking coffee will become more pleasant and avoid the unpleasant sensations that many mistakenly associate with age-related changes. Another common mistake that people who care about their health often make is neglecting morning stiffness. After waking up, it is often felt that the back is like stone, the knees are stiff, and there is a nagging pain in the shoulders. In youth, such sensations usually do not attract much attention, but with age they become more noticeable. Unfortunately, many ignore these signals until acute pain occurs. At night, the body strives to conserve energy, the muscles relax, the joints receive less lubrication, and blood flow slows down. If you immediately engage in active activities after waking up, for example, reaching for a book on a shelf, bending over for slippers, or lifting a heavy kettle, then all these actions are performed with unwarmed joints and muscles. As a result, microtraumas, torn ligaments, increased inflammation, exacerbation of arthrosis or osteochondrosis, and spasms may occur, which will remind you of themselves throughout the day. What to do in this situation? The solution is simple. Include a few simple exercises in your morning routine without getting out of bed. Gentle warm-up of the feet and hands, light turns of the neck to the left and right, a few stretches like a cat does after sleep. Give your body just a couple of minutes to stir. This will prepare the motor system for the upcoming loads and significantly reduce the likelihood of minor painful episodes. The fifth mistake that many make is slouching, which occurs from the very beginning of the day, which leads to insufficient oxygen saturation of the body. Have you noticed that if you don't keep your back straight in the morning, fatigue sets in faster? This is quite natural. Older people often find it convenient to sit hunched over on the edge of the bed, and getting up this way seems easier. However, this pose is a kind of signal for the body, indicating depression. Researchers have long identified a relationship between body position and psychological state. When a person slouches, their lungs are compressed, which leads to a decrease in the volume of oxygen entering. As a result, the brain and muscle tissue do not receive enough nutrition. At the same time, this condition is reflected in the psyche, causing lethargy, apathy, and even anxiety. It is necessary to strive to maintain a straight posture from the first minutes after waking up. Before getting out of bed, it is recommended to straighten your shoulders and take a deep breath. When sitting down, you should put your feet on the floor, feeling a reliable support. Imagine that your head is reaching up and your tailbone is directed down. Thus you give your body to understand, I am full of energy, I am cheerful and ready to live a full life. There is no magic in this, it's just biology. When the body feels free, it is easier to breathe, the heart muscle functions in the correct rhythm, and the brain receives enough oxygen. Delving into the issues of health and longevity, one cannot help but wonder, why do simple morning rituals work wonders? First, with age, there are metamorphoses in metabolism. After 60 years, metabolism slows down, requiring more careful attention to the body. Incorrect morning habits can exacerbate metabolic disorders, provoking pressure surges and heart ailments. Secondly, vitamin D and circadian rhythms play a key role. Lack of morning sunlight negatively affects biorhythms and the level of vitamin D, which is necessary for bone strength, immunity, and mental health. This is especially true in winter, when sunlight is a rare guest. Thirdly, muscle mass and sarcopenia are important factors. With age, muscle loss is inevitable, known as sarcopenia. Morning exercises for the muscles of the legs, back, and neck help maintain muscle tone and prevent the risk of falls. To make sure these rules are simple, it is worth fixing them. Avoid sudden rises. Start the morning with water. Have a snack before tea or coffee. Monitor your posture and ensure sufficient natural light in the room. Implement at least one of these tips tomorrow morning. It is important to remember that age is just a page in the book of life and not a sentence to illness and weakness. Every morning is an opportunity to take a step towards better health, comfort, and clarity of mind. Take care of yourself.